What's up, you beautiful chuds, and welcome to Let's Talk Horror podcast, and welcome to the Creep Zone, where you may come with me, and we'll be in a world of horror imagination. Scott sort of made me do that, but he didn't. I knew that I was going to do that, and then he said he's probably not going to talk to me ever again if I didn't sort of sing. So I apologise to everyone, but I don't give a fuck. It was a bit of fun, but yeah, of course we're here in the Creep Zone, and we are here again. You're probably wondering why the fuck we're dressed up, or if you're wondering why we're dressed up, then you probably don't even you live under a rock somewhere, because of course we are knee deep in the spooky season, the season of screams. Halloween, of course, is just around the corner now. And with this being our closest episode that we will have to the big day itself, me and Scott always do our best to. Since doing the video versions, we always like to dress up. As you know from the last episode, my guest on my Halloween specials, as we established yesterday on recording, he is my resident Halloween guest on Let's Talk Horror. But with me once again, I have Scott with me. Hello, Scott, again. Also, it is Scott. It isn't just somebody that's absolutely fucking scaring the shit out of me while he's sitting there. Hello, Scott.
Hello, thank you for having me back. This mask, people purge in this. There is no way in the world I could purge in that. It is so hot in that mask. I'm gonna drop it off. Hold on. Oh, I've been in that literally for the time you've done your intro, and I feel like I'm about to die.
That's what happens with the purge. The purge is literally they put a mask on people, and who's the last one to survive? Like dying from sweating. That's how they win.
Honestly, it is like I've been in it for like less than a minute, and I'm absolutely dripping. That film now is so unrealistic to me.
That's it. That's it. It's unplausible. That's it.
Yeah,
The film's ruined. There's no
yeah,
way. There's no way the purge could possibly happen unless we don't get to wear the masks, and then we're all right. But I did obviously thank you, Scott, for coming back on the show
thank you
for
for having
this
me.
second episode of the spooky season.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love being here. I'm really pleased we're doing this movie. This movie
Yes.
is, yeah, something really, really special, and I'm genuinely honoured that you asked me to come and talk about it.
Yeah, so I'm this is for those that know Let's Talk Horror, that don't know Let's Talk Horror, this is one of the biggest episodes that I'm ever going to do. Not in regards to, well, it's got a bit of production value, I suppose, but I don't mean it in that way. I mean, I'm sitting here dressed as Willy Wonka, but like, I suppose in regards to production value, there's a little. I don't mean in regards to that. What I mean is that every now and again on the show, there always comes a time when I decide that I want to talk about the movies that are not only some of the most influential, the most iconic to the horror genre in its entirety. That's what this movie definitely is. But it is also a movie that every now and again I like to talk about movies that are incredibly personal to me. And I know this is also another movie that's very personal to Scott, because when this movie came out, me and Scott, we were just the wee teens more than likely, and I think when I first watched this, we get into this. Do you know what? We'll get into that in a minute when I ask about when you first saw it. But we were pretty young when we watched this movie, and it really, I mean, I'm sure it is the same for Scott as well. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, at the age where you are incredibly impressionable, this is a very impressionable movie. This is a very for the time that when this movie came out, it felt like there was nothing like it. And even though it takes things from past movies, even made by obviously the director of this movie, but it still felt new. It still felt fresh. It literally came out of left field and blew everybody's mind. And that's why every now and again I will talk about a movie like this. And all week I've been so excited about the fact that we're doing this. So of course on this episode, we are finally, now nearly 5 years of doing Let's Talk Horror, finally talking about Scream. I'm super excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Scream. I reviewed this in my very, very, very first season of the show, back when I'd done seasons, got 5 years ago ish, and it was one that I was really excited to get to, and then I got to it, And now I'm like, oh, I really want to talk about Scream again. And I can't because we've already covered it. So I'm
Yeah,
really
that's
happy
the
to talk
thing.
about it today.
Yeah, it's always really funny, isn't it? Where like I feel like what I'm purposely doing is biding my time with some of the actual classics of the genre because I've already spoken about quite a few of them, and I feel like once they're done, I almost feel like, well, what am I going to talk about when it comes to like the iconography of what horror is? Because that's obviously a huge part of what Let's Talk Horror is. It's not just talking about the movies and whether they're good or not good. It's talking about their importance to the genre itself, or what, even if they're new movies, what they're going to add to the genre itself. Scream is a very, very big, very important movie to the genre and to cinema in general as well. It's it's a movie that transcends the time still to this day when it came out. So we're going to get right into talking about it. We are both very conscious. We've already said this about the fact that I don't even know if we're going to talk about the fucking movie. Like, like I'm convinced we may not have any time to talk about the movie and end up talking about the brilliance of what is Scream. That could very easily happen. So if you want to know about the movie, maybe go and listen to what Scott did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So Scream was released in 1996. It was directed by the absolutely iconic and obviously the late and great Wes Craven, one of the most important directors in the history of horror. And I actually think that the importance of Wes Craven is actually underappreciated, and I don't necessarily think I mean that in regards to the genre of horror. I mean outside of it. Very similar to say like John Carpenter, for example. Like there's never discussions about John Carpenter when it comes to the world of cinema. In
No.
horror, absolutely, but in the world of cinema, not so much. But yet, here's a guy that made some of the most influential movies. Wes Craven, and I'm going to get into it all as well, is one of those directors that created things that it's not just Scream and it's not just obviously Nightmare on Elm Street. Of course, we'll talk about all that, but it's other movies that he created as well that started a trend, that started what horror was and what it became, and so on. So I always do feel that Wes Craven is underappreciated. Do you reckon? Or am I talking shit again?
No, Wes Craven for me is the most influential horror director of all time. He revolutionized horror multiple times, and every time horror started to get a little bit stale, Wes Craven would pop up with, I made this, and all of a sudden the world of horror would be like, shit, we all need to make that now because that's what he done and that's amazing. Like he done it with The Hills of Ice, then Last House on the Left, then A Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream. Like every time he put his mind to delivering something new, it was always new, but it wasn't just new, it was always groundbreaking, and it always pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable at the time and what was expected at the time. And every time he done it, he literally tipped horror on its head. Horror got stale. He went, there's Freddy Krueger. Yeah, he's a dream demon. He can do all sorts of shit. You've never seen anything like this before. And all of a sudden, we then got a wave of other movies that had supernatural elements with slasher type characters. And he done the same with Scream when Scream came out. And it was like, we're going to acknowledge that other horror movies exist. We're going to be super meta. And then everything after that, even right up until now, still try to incorporate that meta element. Wes Craven is, in my opinion, the best horror director of all time, and I don't think for being a revolutionary, I don't think there's any other director who done what he done for horror.
Yeah, I mean, it's so incredibly well put, and that is exactly it. I mean, once again, I'm sitting here and going, we're not going to fucking talk about this movie because I'm literally just about to say the same sort of thing where I absolutely 100% agree with you because this is a guy, right, that obviously before he created Nightmare on Elm Street, you already said this as well, he'd already made The Hills of Eyes. He had already made The Last House on the Left. Now, they are very dark movies. They are, in tone, in idea, in concept. They do feel very different to, like your Screams and Nightmare on Elm Street. But they were movies that at the time they were part of what he was part of in making movies at that time. That was part of the creation of what horror was to become in the 70s and in that time.
Yeah.
So when it came to the 80s, he created Nightmare on Elm Street. And then in the 90s, he created Scream. It's insane to me that we live in a modern age of pop culture, where Wes Craven has created two of the most iconic characters in the history of horror, but also in cinema, to the point that your gran, your aunt, your uncle, you could say to them, "Who's this?" and they go, "That's Freddy Krueger," or
Yep.
"That's Ghostface," or or something like that. They know who it is because of the iconography that he manages to create with these characters. And
Yeah.
then he puts them to screen. So it's not just about the fact that he's managing to create these characters and then they're in shit movies. It's the fact that he's been able to create these incredible ideas, the incredible concepts that he does, like Freddy Krueger. And then, of course, like he does in Scream, and then obviously People Under the Stairs, and so many different movies that he's done in the past. But then he managed to create actually good movies around these characters. And I think that's such a testament to Wes Craven as a director. The fact that not only does he make great characters, but he makes great movies.
Yeah.
And this is obviously one of them, and we'll talk about it. And you know what? At some point, I'll be talking more about bloody Wes Craven, I'm sure. But this movie, obviously, it's got an absolute fantastic cast. Another thing that we will absolutely talk about, but we've got Neve Campbell or Nev Campbell. I always get it wrong. I mean, in the UK, I think we say like Neve Campbell. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of them say Nev. I think, I don't know, Gary Neville or something. We've got David Arquette, Skeet Ulrich, Matthew Lillard, Courtney Cox, Rose McGowan, Jamie Kennedy. I mean, there's so many more in this movie that pop up. But what I love about this movie is that it is just essentially a cast of unknowns for the time, but
Yeah.
you would not fucking know it. And I can't wait to talk about that. So I'm going to get through this shit fucking quick, and then we can get into talking about it. If you can't tell, obviously we are super excited. So on IMDb, it's 7.4 out of 10 and 78% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is pretty shit for this movie.
That's
Yeah,
criminal.
that's awful. That is awful. Although, to be honest, that could be completely wrong, and I might have copied and pasted the wrong thing. So I don't know. We'll find out. Anybody who's in the comments or whatever, whether it's YouTube or whatever, wherever you're listening, let me know if I fucked that up. Google synopsis wise, set in the fictional town of Woodsboro, high school student Sydney Prescott and her group of friends who, on the anniversary of her mother's murder, become the targets of a costume serial killer known as Ghostface. But who is behind the mask? So before we get into it, let's go right into, do you remember when you first saw this movie?
I do, and I've got a really weird introduction to Scream. So we used to go to Blockbuster and rent videos every week, and I rented 2 videos a week. That was my treat. I rented Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Scream, and I watched them back to back. And that experience will stay with me forever, because it's almost like watching a director practice what he's going to do and then deliver it. And honestly, it blew my mind, because I'm like, oh, this is like watching New Nightmare. Like, oh, this is really cool. So the movie world's like a thing, and these are all actors. And then when it goes into Scream, I was like, oh my God, this director just understands everything. But New Nightmare was 100%. I've got an idea. I'm going to test it on Freddy and see how it works. And it's brilliant. Like, my memory of this is so good. It was me. I had a friend who come and stayed over for the weekend, and we played football and stuff in the day. And then it was these 2 movies on a Saturday night, back to back. And I remember us jumping around the room like, this is amazing.
Yeah, so I've got a very vivid memory of watching this as well, but more so, I've got a very vivid image and memory, almost as if it was like yesterday, of how the movie made me feel, and the impact that it had on me is almost more greater than me remembering when I first watched it. I would have watched it, so it came out in 96. in the UK, we had to wait absolutely forever for anything to come out to
Yeah.
get a home release. So I don't think that this came out for like nearly a year or so.
Yeah, I think it would
So
have been summer '97, maybe
yes,
September's '97 when this came out.
yeah, so when this came out, so I think that I saw this when I was about 12 or 13. I think I ended up watching this. So, like I said at the start, a very impressionable age, so to speak. And I remember when I watched it, I mean, I won't get into like the nitty gritty about it because we're going to talk about it, but I felt like I'd never seen something like this before. It blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was watching, but then it was like, I basically essentially fell in love with Skeet Ulrich, and then and then I was just like, I know that this is a bad person, and of course, Rose McGowan as Tatum in it, is hot as fucking, as you can fucking get, but there was. It was one of those things where I was just like, Skeet Ulrich is a fucking nasty but cool dude. And I've said this on the show before, and I might have even shown the picture. If I can find the picture, I will put it up. But from that point onwards, I would only wear white tight tops. I had curtains hairs, like I grew my I already had sort of long hair, but I always had it in Skeet Ulrich curtains. I had white tops. I had black jeans. I had black boots. I wouldn't go anywhere without dressing like Billy Loomis.
Well,
Um, yeah.
if you dig out your photo, I will dig out mine because I had the curtains. They were all gelled up, and I had the little flick in the top. I was exactly the same.
That's it.
And it was the look. Like everyone had that
Yeah.
look, and because you and me, we got dark face, dark hair. Like we probably in our heads went. I remember being in the mirror going, I just look just like fucking Skeet Ulrich. I'm cool as fuck. I am.
That's it. But yeah, so if I can find the picture, I'll put it up now. Everybody can see me at like 12 or 13, pretending to, thinking I'm Skeet Ulrich. But it was the impact that it had on me as well, because by that time I already knew that filmmaking was what I wanted to do. Like I said, I've always known since I was about 7 years old that filmmaking was what I wanted to do in acting. So I already knew that that was a journey. But a movie like this was like, it just blew my mind, because I was just like, they can make movies like this, and I couldn't fucking believe it. So then I started making my own home movies, and they were screen-based home movies. And fuck, do I wish I had them still, because they were are fucking awful, but it would be hilarious to go back on them. But there I am, dressed as Skeet Ulrich. I brought one of in the cinema, in the movie industry, they call them the magic knives, where they're like the knives that you push in, and it
Yeah,
looks like you can stab them, but obviously they probably use them in Scream. But I had one of those. It was at that time where I was just like, I can't afford to buy a shitload of syrup, so I'm going to use ketchup for blood, and at least it tastes all right. And we did our own home Scream movies, and I would I would play the killer and so on like that. So it's the impression that this movie had on me outside. Like, it was more than just a movie. And that's what's so important about this movie, is because it became culture. It became huge. The cast became instant stars. Wes Craven was, Wes Craven. I mean, he already was Wes Craven, but it was just like, oh shit, like Wes Craven has created this new thing that feels like nothing's ever been done like this before, apart from obviously New Nightmare, but nobody spoke about that. But but it was such an incredible moment in time for horror, because it needed it. The 90s horror, up until like this time, it really didn't know what it was. It
no,
just kept doing so many different types of horrors to see what landed, and nothing really was landing. Now, it was good, the 90s, because of the variety, because we got so many different types of movies within the 90s, and they just couldn't settle on what was going to make the money until 1996, and Scream came out, and they were like, this is the future of horror, this is where we're making the money. But then, as we know, it fucked itself over, because it brought out so many of these movies that
yeah,
by 99 they were like, shit, what else do we have? And they're like, well, we've run out of this, we've run out of supernatural ghost house fucking movies where like Matthew Lillard's chasing 13 ghosts or whatever, and houses on haunted hills. What's next? Well, let's get Blair Witch Project. And then
yeah,
that started all that again. So it's the constant evolving, the changing of horror. But this was one of the biggest moments in the 90s, or the biggest moment in the 90s of that decade for horror. And that's all down to Scream. But yeah, it is one of those movies, very much like the segment I have, Your First Time, where it's like talking about your first horror memory. This is one of those movies that very rarely people forget the first time they saw, because it always has one of those impacts where you're like, fuck, like that's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a movie that definitely sticks with you as well. And it sticks with you because whenever you watched anything that come after Scream, like when you watch things like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, like anything that come after that tried to emulate it, it was never as good, and they never got it just right. Wes Craven seemed to balance everything. It was the right amount of meta. It was the right amount of crazy Billy Loomis and crazy Stu Marker. It was the right amount of timid final girl till she finally loses her shit. It was the right balance of friends around them. Like everything in that movie is so perfectly balanced. And I think the biggest part of it and the biggest thing it all hinged on was advertising it as a Drew Barrymore led movie. And as
Yeah.
soon as the, because everyone knew who Drew Barrymore was. Drew Barrymore was one of the most well-known people on the planet. So Drew Barrymore's in a horror movie, everyone goes to see it. This is like proper internet. It's pre-internet. This is people coming out of the cinema going, "You've got to go and see this film. You're not going to believe what happens to Drew Barrymore." And it was just this sheer momentum of word of mouth that made this a phenomenon.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's insane, and we get straight into that, because one of the first, literally the note that I've got in here is that this is one of, if not the best opening to a movie, not just in horror, but to cinema in general of all time.
Yeah,
It really sets up the entirety of the movie in regards to, this is the tone of what the movie is. It is paying its respects to horror, but it never feels like it's taking the piss out of it. And that's what I really love about it. It's paying homage to things like, and also what I love about this as well is that Wes Craven is literally paying homage to his own movies multiple times, which I'll talk about in a bit. But once again, it never feels arrogant. It never feels like I'm Wes Craven and look what I've fucking done. He's literally paying homage to horror in this movie, and you get that from the opening scene. But as you say, you've got Drew Barrymore, obviously absolutely fucking stunning. I always had a crush on Drew Barrymore, and she is in this. You think like, well, she's at the start of the movie, so she's obviously going to survive. Something's going to happen, and she's
yeah,
going to
she's
get
the
out.
final girl. Yeah, she's the final
Absolutely.
girl. Who else could it be? It's definitely her.
Absolutely. And then you have obviously, the phone call, and you've got everything going on in the background with the Jiffy Pop and everything. And she's getting ready for a movie night. And already, if you're a fan of movies, you're already excited by this, because it's just exciting. You don't know what's going to happen. And then, she's doing the thing. She starts getting the phone call. And once again, it's one of those things where, as a movie, it's very exciting. But what makes it more exciting is that it's the whole horror aspect of it. Like, this is just a love letter to horror fans,
Yeah,
that I love the fact that the conversation they're having is built around horror movies and the questions that they're having. And it's just the constant escalation of everything that happens, where it keeps them going and going and going until it gets all kinds of fucked up that you do not expect it to be this fucked up. You've got obviously, Drew Barrymore answering the questions. You've got the incredible voice of Ghostface over the phone, which is always iconic. And then you've got her answering the questions, and she gets the questions wrong, which obviously she's convinced is right. But obviously we know she's wrong. She doesn't know her Friday the 13th as well as she should. And it just turns from that point where now she's getting chased and so on. But it's just, then it becomes that Wes Craven moment where you get like that, the crazy violence in it, where it shifts from this almost quite Hollywood-esque movie, and Hollywood-esque opening and then it goes like full horror, where you've got Steve, a poor old boyfriend, in the on the porch, and he
yep,
gets his guts out. And then the horrible thing that happens to her, and then she's hung from a tree, and then her parents find her. In that space of the first 10 minutes, it tells you everything what this film is going to be. It is going to be an unpredictable ride that is going to be a little bit Hollywood, but also it's going to be a lot of horror, and it's so good because of that.
Yeah, it's a great opening, but what I love the most about the opening is they do this cold open that leaves everyone with jaws on the floor. Like they just killed Drew Barrymore. And then all that's going through your head is, where does this go now? Like, because they only really advertised Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore's in Scream. That was all of their marketing campaign was behind Drew. And then when you watch her die, you're like, whoa, what happens now? And the contrasting cut from that opening brutal scene to just cut into a group of friends. You're like, oh. And what he does, he builds the tension to a crescendo. He has the big explosion, and then it just goes calm. And he does it all the way through this movie. He has moments that build and build and build and build and build. There's a big thing that happens, and then after that, it's silence. Like it's just normal things happening in a normal town. And that makes it very exciting to watch because you don't know when that big moment's going to come because of the way he frames everything. It's so clever.
Yeah, and what I think is a great thing to talk about as well, because you're right. Like, where do we go from there? Like, where do we go from Drew Barrymore? And where we go, like you said, we are introduced to a group of friends who is just like I said at the start, a cast of unknown. You know, like we didn't know who these were. Although obviously the same year that this came out, The Craft came out, which had Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell in it as well. So they will. I mean, that was why they were cast in the movie, because obviously they had already worked with each other, and of course that works unbelievably well. But what I do love about this movie is that even though these are a cast of people that we don't know who they are, they're not a famous cast or anything, there are not a single bad character in this movie, and there is not a single bad performance as those characters in this movie. And once again, and it's almost like what we were talking about on the episode that we did before this with Sleepy Hollow, that there are a load of characters in it, but none of them overstay their welcome, and all of them feel like they are part of the world that we're watching. And that is what's great about like Wes Craven and what he's so good at doing and what he's so good in Scream. But there's not a single bad character in this movie, and it's something to go once again to show the intelligence of his writing.
Yeah, it's really good as well. The fact that every single character has a purpose, every single character has a point to be there. It's not just like he's gone, oh, we need 7 friends. It's not. It's like we need this friend because they're going to do that. And we need this friend because they're going to do that. And all of these are going to work together in this way. Like even down to the bare basics of Matthew Lillard be like, leave her alone, leave her alone. And Skeet slapping him. And like that, you're like, oh yeah, he's being a bit of a dick. Oh yeah, his mate's giving him a slap. At no point do you think those two are the killers. It just doesn't even cross your mind for an instant.
Well, the funny thing is that I've got in my notes, I remember the first time watching it, I knew that they were the killers.
Oh, because, really?
Yeah, because there was something about it where I was so glued to everything that was happening that I just felt that it was a double bluff the whole time. Because you've got the moment where they're in the thing, and because he's just so fucking shifty. Like,
yeah.
And, like Billy is there to make you think that he's the killer because he looks like a psychopath and he's acting and talking like a psychopath.
Yeah.
And then Matthew Lillard there is basically his best mate that's almost like, tags along with him and does whatever he wants and stuff. But the way that they have their conversations, like you said, like about live her alone. And then there's the moment as well where he says something about killing somebody, and then he's just like, well, nobody said that you did.
Yeah.
As soon as that conversation took place, and of course the moment in Blockbuster that they have as well, or the rental shop, wherever it is, when they're having those conversations, for me, I was like, this is now gone too far for it to not be them. And if it isn't them, then I'm a fucking idiot. But I was just like, the film does a really great job of giving you the options, or thinking, or anyone can think it can be anyone. But even from the first time I watched it, I was just like, it's them.
See, I thought it was Randy First time I
Yeah.
watched this, I was convinced it was Randy. I'm like, you're the movie guy, you know about all the horror movies. Like this makes sense that you would be the guy asking horror movie questions. And when it wasn't, like the reveal in this first time watch was like my little head went, it's like, oh my god! It like the reveal of Billy's not as big a thing. Like he, as you say, he's shifty as fuck. But the reveal of Stu and like when Stu's like, yeah, well, this bit was my plan and this bit was my plan. I'm like, you're the brains behind this, and that makes that even scarier. You're the intelligent one of the two.
Yeah, I think with me, it was like, I remember sitting there watching it and going, it's them. And I was waiting for one of them to die to prove me wrong. Because I was like, I was waiting for Billy to die because I was like, that's the only way that I'm not going to think that it's them. But I like the fact, I'm happy that it's like you thought the opposite. I like the fact because once again, it goes to show the intelligence of this movie and how once again it's a movie where like everybody takes different things from it, from your first watch and so on. And now there'll be other people that get to watch this movie for the first time and they're going to think what they think. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's probably somebody out there who probably thought Steve, the boyfriend, was just faking it and he was going to come back and do it. But
yeah,
you know what I mean? So, but when it comes to the characters in this, you know, you've got Neve Campbell, obviously, you know, has become the iconic final girl that she has. You know, what a great, incredibly great performance entirety through the whole movie is Sydney. You know, she plays this, you know, the good girl, you know what I mean? And you know, but also she's got that sort of like fight in her, you know, like she also doesn't take shit. Because obviously, Courtney Cox appears in this, and you're like, she's from Friends, and
yeah,
she turns up. But yeah, like Sydney isn't just a pushover. She smack her in the mouth to shut her up. You know, you've got her friend, as I've already mentioned, the absolutely stunning, crusher for so many people out there, Rose McGowan. She's just so fucking hot in this movie.
her
Um,
character's so good as well.
yeah,
Like her interactions with pretty much everyone, she's very much like, you're a dick and I'm going to mock you and I'm going to ridicule you. And like, even when she does it to Ghostface, I'm like, you're so good. You're so going to
yeah,
die right now. But I really applaud you for just not caring. Just like, yeah, oh, Mr. Ghostface, am I going to be your next victim? Oh, no. Like, brilliant.
yeah.
Absolutely
I want to
brilliant.
be in the sequel. So
Yeah.
many great, and that's the thing. Like, and I'll get into that about with Kevin Williamson in the script as well. But of course, like I love the bit when she's just like, "Bam, Sydney, super bitch," or whatever it was. You know what I mean?
Bam.
When
Bitch
she's like,
went down.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. It's just so great. But obviously, we've got Tatum. We have Randy. Obviously, he's like almost like the film nerd outside of it. Like he's like us outside
Yeah.
of the movie who loves horror. You know, we are essentially all like that Randy character who's just like, don't do that, don't do this. And obviously, something that this movie once again intelligently and cleverly put forward is the whole. And once again, now another thing, there is like a zillion things in this movie that has now become iconic throughout history of horror and cinema. And another thing of that is the rules. You can't sleep with people, you can't have sex, you can't do this, you can't do that. It once again, it's just so fucking good because it like takes you into the real world of like, like they are saying that this is, they're essentially part of this movie, this shit that's happening and all this stuff that's going down, but they're giving you the rules of what people in this movie can't do. And it's
Yeah.
so clever. It's just it's such an intelligent movie and so well written. But then we've got Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich as the killers, as Billy and Stu. And once again, obviously Skeet Ulrich is great, but Matthew Lillard in this is just so fucking funny that even when I watched it the other day for the prep, it's just the things that he's saying and the way that he's saying, it's just so unpredictable. Like obviously when you've seen it, you know what they are, but it's still to this day so funny when he's starting crying and he's like, "Oh, my mum and dad are going to be so bad at me," and it's just like, and it's the little bits as well, like you hit me with the phone, you dick.
That has got to be the best movie blooper of all time, and it was so good that Wes Craven kept it in. Can you imagine how much Wes Craven laughed his ass off when he
Yeah.
whacked him on the back of the head with the phone and Matthew Lillard come out with that? Wes Craven must have been like, cut, perfect, that's a wrap, don't need a reshoot, we're 100% keeping that.
Yeah, it's literally one of the funniest lines and stuff like that. But that whole scene as well, it's just I mean, every fucking set. I mean, we haven't even spoken about anything that happens in the movie, pretty much, apart from the
No.
start. This is what we knew was going to happen. So anybody, as I said, like, look, if you want to know about the movie, just go and fucking watch the movie. You're probably not going to get anything from us. I'm trying. I'm really trying. But yeah, so you've got the great cast, of course. David Arquette is Dewey, who's everybody's favorite cop in this. I mean, Dewey is my favorite character. I love him.
I like Dewey. My biggest problem with Dewey and with Gale is they're both fucking idiots. Dewey could not solve a crime if you wrote down all the clues for him and handed it to him and let him join the dots. He just couldn't. Not in this first movie. And Gale is just the biggest scumbag in this movie. She is the horrible reporter who will literally sell her soul to get the story she wants. But when you put those two characters together, they work really well off of each other. I think either of them on their own would be a bit too much. Like if you followed Dewey for the entire movie, you'd be like, mate, come on, it's not that hard. Like, do some police work. And if you followed Gale, you'd be like, I can't watch this woman anymore. She's awful. But put them
Yeah, you
together and
are
they're great.
exactly right. Yeah, if they did like an entirety of a movie with Dewey, it would just be a comedy,
Yeah,
like because it'd just be him like, bumbling around, like, probably like Dewey. But I just love like how almost every scene with Dewey, he's almost like a kid. You know what I mean? Like how he's there with an ice cream, you know what I mean? And it's just such a weird and random character to have as like the cop. Because as we always know, like in these movies, you expect the cop to be. I mean, obviously in Nightmare on Elm Street, you've got John Saxon as who's the cop, who is, Nancy's dad. And
yeah,
obviously he's, a proper cop, apart from the fact that obviously, he doesn't really figure much out. But, but they're all cops. In these movies, you expect the cops to be the cops. But
yeah,
Dewey's like a little kid eating ice creams. And one of my favorite scenes or moments in this movie is very much that, where it's like a kid that's trying to act tough, where they try and they do the phone call when Sydney is staying over at Tatum and
yeah,
Dewey's
yeah,
house, and the phone call goes, and he goes into the room late with a gun and his pants in the air, and there's just like, and then Tatum's all like, "You're late, idiot," or whatever what doofus or whatever he calls him,
yeah.
and he picks up the phone and puts on a tough voice and he goes, "Hello." And that's one of my favorite moments in the entirety of the movie. Something that simple, but it's just like this guy's such a moron. And how the fuck did he become a cop? Like, it's just because it's such a small town that they obviously need cops, and Dewey's the best that they can get while he's walking around ice creams acting tough on a phone. But there's so many great moments in this movie with him. I love the fact that, but you're right, when you get those two together with him and Gale together, there's like a really, really nice, sweet element, like you don't want anything to happen to him. Like they flirt a bit, but also he's a bit of an idiot, so he doesn't necessarily know how to flirt, but yet he's doing all right, like
Let's be honest, he done really well. They end up getting married after this in real life. He done a
yeah,
really good job of flirting.
yeah, exactly, yeah, he did. But there's just, and once again, it just goes down to the testament. I mean, we can talk about that as well, but the testament to Kevin Williamson's script. Of course, filmmaking wise, Wes Craven is just as good as anyone can ever get. But the script from Kevin Williamson in this movie is so spot on. It must have been such a difficult script to write because you've got to try and navigate the twists and turns and everything that's going to be happening, and obviously keep it unpredictable. And of course, you've got to throw in the odd thing, the red herrings and so on. So it must have been such a difficult thing to do, but it's the script writing in regards to being able to create these characters that you love. Every single one of these characters, you're happy to spend any time that you get with these characters, and you just enjoy all the journey. That every time they say something, it's either hilarious or it works or it gives you the emotional punch that it's meant to. Him, Craven and Williamson together is genuinely like magic, unlike any other. Like it's
Yeah,
just absolutely insane.
yeah. Kevin Williamson's a very, very clever writer, and I think what makes his writing clever is that, and it's not just in this film, he does it in other movies he's written as well, is he takes you down a very well guided path from A to B, but that guided path is not the end destination. So he takes you in one direction and you follow it all the way down, going, oh, right, this is this, and this is this, and this is this. He gets to a point in the film and he goes, nah, forget everything I told you. It's this way. And he
Yeah.
completely flips the script. And he does it in multiple movies. He does it in this. He does it in I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like, he's got the ability to take a script in a certain direction, make you love all of these characters, and then turn it completely the other way, and then turn two or three of the characters that you really care about and you actually quite like into the villains. And you're like, oh, right, okay, I hate you now, but I don't, because you're cool as shit. I want to be just like, I'm currently styling my hair like you while I'm watching, but you're now the bad guy. It's yeah, Kevin Williamson's a great writer. I don't know what his writing's like now in comparison to this, but this I think is his peak.
Well, we're going to find out pretty soon with the new Scream movie, with all the controversies that everything has been. And now, I mean, obviously, the studio now is very much like, we fucked up, it's fucked up. Now we've got to do everything we can to try and win back the people that love Scream. I don't think it's going to happen, but they're trying their best by getting Kevin Williamson to write, to direct. Obviously, we've got literally everyone back. I don't know how they're going to do it, but we'll fucking see. But I don't know. I just, part of me is like, this is either going to be, part of me thinks it's going to be the train wreck that I think it probably will be. But at the same time, there's that like glimmer of hope in me to go, let's like hope like something happens where you're like, oh fuck, it's like Scream again.
Yeah, do you know the frustrating thing with the new movie is, like, they've made all of the announcements. So we know Roman Bridges coming back. We know that Stu Marker's coming back. We know that Skeet's going to be back. We know that all these characters are just, oh, Dewey's back as well. So all of these
Yeah,
characters that we know have died are back. Like, if you're going to do that, don't tell me. Don't
yeah,
tell me. Let me have that, oh my God moment in the cinema. Like, telling me now, when I do go and watch it, I'm going to be sat there going, oh, when's Stu going to pop up? When's Roman
yeah,
popping up?
true.
When's Dewey coming back? Like, if they kept all that shit back and told us nothing, and we went in expecting a new rehashed movie where Ghostface is chasing Sydney again, and then you get an unmasking, like Sydney grabs the mask and pulls it off, and it's Stu. The cinema would be like Avengers Endgame level explosions of popcorn. But because they've told us that they're all back, I don't know, it's kind of taken a lot of the excitement out of it for me.
Yeah, you're right. But the problem is that that's the only way they can make people want to see the movie, and that's what sucks. Is
Yeah,
they're giving away their main weapon for the movie. That when you go and watch it, you're going to be like, oh, okay, like this is insane. But then we already know essentially, you know, the insane parts of what the movie is. But then, you know, then you just have that, you know, with movies like this, because I love it so much. And like, obviously, we're only talking about the first one. Wes Craven went obviously directed 2, 3, and 4, which obviously is incredible. And for me personally, it should have never gone past the 4. It should have just stopped when Craven unfortunately died. That should have been it for me. You know, I personally haven't enjoyed any of the Scream movies that have come since. I just don't like it. Like the whole Ghost Billy thing is fucking ridiculous. Um, I just don't get it. I know there are people that like them, but I just don't. I just feel that the franchise should have ended with, you know, obviously unfortunate passing of Craven. But I love the fact that he made like those 4, and because it means that he understands the movie, he understands how the movie should look, should feel. And I love all the Scream movies, even 4. I know a lot of people don't like 4 so much,
I
but
love
I love
four.
all. Yeah, I love 4. I mean, it's definitely a lot darker and a lot bloodier, but I love all of the Craven Scream movies. So when you have this love, this affection for, you know, a movie like Scream, and then obviously the other movies, then it's one of those things where you're like, I still hope, for some reason, I still hope that there's some success with the new one, because you just don't want any more of the name being tarnished. It's like, for me, it's a bit like Evil Dead. If, you know, so far, every Evil Dead movie for me personally has been like a 5-star movie, because I just love the Evil Dead movies. And they made one without Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, and I was just like, no, this is gonna be fucking shit. And then it was like Evil Dead 2013, amazing. Then obviously
Yeah,
they did Evil Dead Rise, and I'm like, well, this is surely like they can't keep making good ones. And then they did. So now it's like one of those things where like the longer it goes, if they make a bad one, then you're almost putting that tarnish on the legacy of like something that was created that's great. And the more that they keep doing that with Scream, where they keep making shit ones, the more people go, well, what happens with the rest of them? You know, and that's always sad to me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. For me, Scream should have been a one and done. I don't think there should have been a sequel to Scream at all. The first Scream movie is a perfect A to B wrapped up ending. The killers are dead. There's no need to do another. Obviously, the studio have got a need. They want to
Yeah,
make hundreds of millions of dollars again. But from a
yeah,
story standpoint, the end of Scream 1, bookend that off, job done. That there's nothing you needed to add to this to elaborate on the story. I don't think. I love Scream as a standalone. I really enjoy Scream 4. I'll be honest, 2 and 3, I'm a bit. They're okay. I think 1 and 4 are my favourites. I quite liked the new ones. I really bought into the Carpenter sisters storyline, and yeah, I'm really pissed off with the way that ended up with Spyglass just being general dicks, but they're a
yeah.
studio.
Well,
But
they fucked themselves right over with
oh
that, and
yeah,
now they're, as I said, now all they're trying to do is trying to
it's
make up for it
damage
by
control.
giving. Yeah, exactly. They're like, shit. What do we do? We still need to make a movie and make all of our money. Well,
Yeah,
let's as I've already said, let's do everything we can to bring everybody back. So even those people that didn't and were never going to see this movie will see this movie because everybody wants to see Matthew Lillard and David Arquette and everyone. I mean, it's a clever move, but it doesn't mean. I mean, it's not the right one, but it's a very clever move.
yeah. It makes me wonder if like they've told us all these people. How many people are coming back that they haven't told us? Are we going to get Jill Roberts from Scream 4? Are we going to get Rose McGowan come back? Like, that's the bit I'm more interested in, is what they haven't told us. What are they keeping under wraps? Because as much as the studio might need to leak stuff to get people to watch it, Kevin Williamson is going to be going, no, you cannot tell them that Rose McGowan comes back in the fourth act and actually she was absolutely fine and she's been the one who's orchestrated all the scream kills. You cannot tell them that. Like,
Yeah, and we haven't seen her because she's got a cat flap stuck to her.
yeah. Let's talk about her kill because I love that kill. It's the most ridiculous, removed from reality moment, but it is so cool. Like the beard lifted up and just like squished in that like dog flap is honestly, that's one of my favorite kills in this. And I know I've seen so many people online go, yeah, but it wouldn't happen. They've got safety mechanisms. Yes, I know, but a masked killer in a ghost face outfit running around killing people like with horror movie tropes also probably wouldn't happen either. So just enjoy it. And like I love that kill.
Well, that's it. And you said exactly the right thing is in regards to this movie. It's a fucking movie, so just enjoy it. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to sit there and then go, oh, like it just wouldn't happen. Like it would just break and then it wouldn't keep going up. Yeah, but then we wouldn't have one of the most like iconic kills that everybody fucking talks about and loves. And also, it's so much fun. That's what I love about this movie, and what Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven are so good at doing is that they are so good at creating something that's very dark, something that tackles that very dark, natured people and aspects and things that happen in movies, but yet they make them so much fun. I mean, Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street is such a fucking fun movie,
Yeah.
but yet we have the Dream Demon that can do anything and literally anything that he wants you in your sleep. And before he did that, he was doing some very, very horrible things to kids. The characters and the movies and the ideas and the concepts that Craven has always made really are very, very dark, but he somehow managed to make it so almost anyone can watch it. And that's what I love about Scream as well, is that it feels like that as long as you're okay with like a bit of blood and guts. And as I said, when this movie goes to those horror moments with the blood, I mean, there's a lot of blood in this movie,
Yeah,
and
there is.
they do a good job at keeping it like very realistic. Like it doesn't go overboard where it's like when people get shot in this movie, the sound of it is phenomenal. The sound in this movie is great, but the way that they shoot them, the impact of that, it feels very real to the point that it's quite uncomfortable because you're like, it feels like that's how it is when people get shot. Well, apart from the fact when Randy gets shot or whatever and then goes flying through the fucking table like at like 4 or 5 feet behind him. That bit's hilarious and it gets me every time. But in regards to like the way the impact of the shots or the violence obviously with the knives and stuff like that, the stabs and stuff, like it's very visceral, it feels very real, and there's a lot of impact in those moments. So Craven is so good at having those moments, but yet Scream always still, and Nightmare on Elm Street always to me still feels like movies that, as long as you're okay with those, anyone can watch and enjoy them. And that's one of the reasons why I think Scream obviously was so successful, because it not only was something for the horror fans, where it's just like, there were so many nods and homages and it was so meta, and they had conversations about horror movies. And as a horror fan, you're like, wow, like how fucking cool is this? But then it brought so many people, new fans of horror, people who didn't like horror or didn't know horror. And this is why the impact of this movie is so important, because it brought people to horror at a time when it needed it big time.
Yeah, Wes Craven's always had the ability, which is one of the reasons I think he's one of the best directors. He's always had the ability to transcend the horror genre. He's never been stuck in that horror box. Like, he makes a horror movie, he makes a violent, brutal, scary horror movie, but somehow manages to make that appeal to the general public, the general audience. Like, if Wes Craven releases something, he's not releasing it to horror fans. He's releasing it to everyone, and he markets it to everyone. He has characters that people relate to. Like, every character in that friend group, people of that age would go, oh, I've got a friend who's just like that. I've got a friend who's goofy like this. I've got a friend who's a film nerd like that. And he makes everything so relatable that it does just cross that boundary of not just a brutal horror movie anymore. It's a relatable piece of cinema. And in doing that, that's why he revolutionized horror, because everything he done had the ability to step out of the box of us horror nerds sat there going, oh, that kill was awesome. Oh, that chase is great. And he managed to make an actual story of people that are all relatable, that everyone goes, I really like this. I like these characters. I really root for Sydney because I can see she's like really, really trying her best, and she's got a bit about her, but she's still young and she's still nervous. And like, it's everything about it so well done.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things as well that I think that Wes Craven doesn't necessarily get always the appreciation that he should deserve, and I think he's underappreciated in regards to his technical aspect of telling the story and what we see on screen as well. Like obviously Nightmare on Elm Street is a visually like gorgeous movie, and I think that doesn't really come across to a lot of people as much as well, because of how much more there is in his movies for you to enjoy. Like we've spoken about so much about all this movie already, but yet one thing that I love about this movie, and I did back then, and I still to this day, every time I watch it, is that how really this is a really beautifully shot and lit movie. Like every time I watch this movie, I can't believe how fresh it looks. Like it still looks like of course, there are the odd thing that makes it dated. For example, they've got landline phones, and they've got, if anybody's got a mobile one, it's like, it doesn't look like what people know today. So there are, and of course they're in fucking video shops with VHS players, so there are things that in this movie that are going to make it feel a little bit dated. But for me, obviously, and I'm sure for yourself and anybody our age, that's all nostalgia for us. And then we like it even more because we get to be taken back to a time that we loved and we miss. But this movie is a gorgeous movie because it's got this really, really bright looking, like fresh aesthetic. It's really clean looking, and I really like that about this movie. It makes it feel like more real with how clean and everything is. Like nothing looks grimy or looks like shit in this. Everything's set up beautifully. You've got these beautiful anamorphic wide angle, widescreen shots the entirety of the movie. Very like Spielberg-esque, you know what I mean? Where you've always got a shot, whether it's somebody in the middle, but you've got everything going on around them. And once again, and I talk about this all the time, for me, it's like the loss of filmmaking that we have today. I'm not going to go into it anymore because I always talk about it, but it's a loss of filmmaking that when I watch this movie, I'm like, fuck, like, I wish that they made movies look like this still, because this is, to me, like, when I look at movies like this, I'm like, oh yeah, this is what cinema used to look like and should still look like, because we're constantly evolving technology. So we
Yeah,
shouldn't be going backwards and just going. And that's the thing, like the technical aspect of filmmaking is constantly being lost because of the accessibility. I talk about this a lot, but the accessibility to everyone being able to make movies now is getting easier and easier. Like, people can do it on their iPhones now. But the fact that people used to not be able to do that, it means that you used to have to understand more the technical craft of filmmaking in regards to, like, well, this is why we would use a wide angle lens or an anamorphic lens, because it means that it gives it a bigger look and it makes it look bigger budget than what it is, but also it means we can use it to tell the story more. It means we can set up the shot here, but we can have Billy and Sydney and Matthew Lillard, Stu Masher in the same shot. We can have the whole group of them sitting on a thing in the whole shot, rather than constantly just doing a close up of this and a close up of
yeah,
that. And that's what we get very often now. So I feel like, as much as an intelligent director he is, what Wes Craven is, as much as the iconography that he's created in regards to Freddy Krueger and Hills of Eyes and Last House on the Left, and of course Ghostface, which obviously are going to be, I mean, they set up so much for everything else that we're going to see, that we see now and the future. But I also always, every time I watch his movies, I always go, do you know what? Like, as an actual filmmaker, even if you take away all that sort of stuff, he's a very, very, very good filmmaker that managed to create, like, something that came out in '96, and this film looks like a movie that hadn't been out before. Like, it looked like a
yeah.
whole new movie.
Yeah, do you know one of my favorite shots in this is the shot that they do with the camera moving backwards as Ghostface is chasing Drew Barrymore? So
Yes, yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
he's chasing her
And he's
down,
chasing her. Yeah,
yeah, they're pulling the camera back and they're using slow-mo, and then they bring the camera to a slight angle, so it's moving back and it's turning as he takes her down. And just the technical aspects of moving a camera back at the same pace that people are running and slowing it down and tilting the camera to get the right angle as she starts to fall, the camera goes with her. And that's all done in a single shot. The technical prowess of the cameraman under the direction of Wes Craven, like that, there's not many movies that have a single shot that do that kind of long, drawn away twist down. Like, that is an incredible single shot piece of cinema, and
yeah,
it's on screen for what, 8 seconds, but those 8 seconds you're like, you feel like you're running with her, and that's really hard to get across on screen, but he does it, and it's down to the fact that he's a technically gifted filmmaker.
yeah. And what's great about being a technically gifted filmmaker is, and it's the exact reason as to what you've just said. The point is that you fully understand that the way that you set up the shots, the way that you film things, is interpreting how you're supposed to feel when you're watching those scenes. The power of what a shot can do is so important. Like, for example, the fact that he's using these anamorphic wide angle widescreen lenses, it means that when in the opening, when you've got Drew Barrymore, doing all, going through everything she's going to, you never know whether someone's in the background. And if you're then just having a close up shot of her face, you don't get to see everything that happens in the background. And once again, as I said, for me, it's like, it's something that just constantly feels lost in modern cinema, where it shouldn't be, because we should be constantly trying to, like, work on top of that and evolve that sort of style of filmmaking. But once now we've gone to digital filmmaking, and anybody can pretty much do it. Now you don't have to try as hard because the accessibility is there. Then it's now easy to not have to try and do the things that made filmmaking what it was.
Yeah,
But this movie is a huge example of how integral filmmaking or technical filmmaking is to a movie like this to make it even better, including bloody everything else that's so great about it. What I love about this movie as well is that there's so many like homages, like I've already said, like Wes Craven makes to his own movies and other movies. And there's so many of them. Of course, you've got like the janitor that pops up because obviously even Arthur Fonzarelli, the Fonz himself, is in this movie. Henry
Yep.
Winkler. Always funny when he pops up and you're like, oh, it's the Fonz.
That is exactly
Well,
what you do. Yeah, it's
yeah,
the fun's here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the principal. And also, he would 100% be fucking fired because there's that bit where the kids who are wearing the ghost face mask go to his office and he starts running the scissors across them. And you're like, yeah, you're fucking fired. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way, like, the parents of those kids are going to turn up and be like, yeah, you look like you were, my son said you were trying to stab him. So
Yeah.
you're fired. But you know, in regards to homages, there's loads. There's obviously the janitor that's obviously dressed up as Freddy Krueger.
It's Wes
You've got
Craven.
which is Wes Craven, exactly. Yeah, which is insane. Of course, you have got the scene, which is basically the same scene from Nightmare on Elm Street, where Skeet goes through Sydney's window, and
Yeah.
obviously on top of that, we've got Skeet Ulrich, who's literally identical to Johnny Depp. So you've got that. You've got there's so many homages to Wes Craven movies. You know, there's quite a lot of the Nightmare on Elm Street references in this movie, but there's loads of references to other horror movies. The fact that they're sitting there watching Halloween, which makes it even better. And Randy, as I said, is going through all the rules. You've got when they go to the video store, there's like a movie like standee in the background. That's Jamie Lee Curtis is on the standee
Yep.
in the background. So there's like when you watch this movie so many times, you always keep on picking up on these extra things that make this an even more enjoyable movie as a horror fan. But like I said, is that I love the fact that Wes Craven's got the balls to homage so many of his own movies because he already knows what he's done is so great and integral to the genre. But it never feels where you're like, oh, what a fucking arrogant motherfucker. You know what I mean?
No, it very much feels like there's things that like he's made this for a mass audience, as we said earlier. He's trying to reach as many people as he can, but he's made an active effort to go, horror fans will remember this, horror fans will know this, horror fans will recognize this. I'm going to stick that in there and that in there, and then I'm going to watch them all talk about it as they spot it, and they're like, oh shit, that's the thing from the thing. And I think that's, I don't know how much of that's done from his point of view, just as an enjoyable thing for him to go, I'm going to stick this in here and just, I wonder if anyone will spot it. I wonder how many things he put in and went, I wonder if anyone will actually notice, or if I've just done it for my own amusement. Either way, I'm happy with that. One
Yeah.
thing I do want to talk about, big backed TVs. Like the generation we have now.
People will not know.
No, so I've got two boys who are 18. We went into a like a second-hand shop the other day, and there was a big back TV in there. Neither of them knew what it was.
Jesus Christ.
They were like, "Why is it so big?" And I was trying to explain it. But what I want to ask is, would that TV have killed Stu?
Well, so it's interesting because obviously for on the movie thing, you know, you're like, no, I hope it wouldn't. But the thing is, and when you said about that, the funny thing is I remember having the experience of the first TV that I brought with my own money that I ended up doing on one of those things where you pay X amount a month. And it was the first, and it was like for back then, it was the first job that I got, and I managed to get obviously this TV, you know, pay monthly, and it was a big TV, but the TV was so heavy that it took three of us to get it upstairs, and then three of us to put it on this stand, and then to make sure it was there, and then three of us, obviously two people to hold it while I was doing the plugs and everything like that. So as much as like in the movie, the TV does like get pushed over and it's really light, and you're like, I don't know. Knowing that TV that I had was so heavy, I'm like, yeah, do you know what? Like he could have been killed. But then also the thing is then you're like, it becomes about, I don't want him to be killed because of the character. That's the thing. It's like, do I think that he would have been killed by a TV on his head? Yes, because I think you've got the fact that the TV's heavy, you've got the fact that there's glass, which could have done anything to him, and the fact that, you know, he gets electrocuted essentially as well. I you know, when I watched it and when it was done, I was like, well, he's definitely dead. But at the same time, as a character, you want all of these characters to come back, unless they're like ghosts, like fucking Billy. Then I don't want it to happen like that.
No,
But yeah,
and like I never believed Stu was dead, and I've advocated for years for him to come back, and now he is finally coming back. The one
yeah,
year I didn't make a big song and dance about him coming back for a Scream movie, he actually done it. But the one thing I like in this is Wes Craven's not afraid to kill characters.
yes, yeah,
Like the ending of this movie with Billy Loomis, like Randy going, well, they always come for one big scare. And he jumps up and Sidney just pops him right between the eyes and goes, not in my fucking movie. Like that is like, yes, that's how you show without a shadow of a doubt that that killer is done and they're never, ever, ever coming back. Brilliant ending.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, once again, we've literally pretty much not spoken about the movie and anything really that happens into it in regards to going like from start to finish. I mean, there is so many great moments in this movie that you could literally go like from scene to scene in this movie and just talk about it and then talk about as to why it's so influential to horror, but also so influential to the movie. Like even things like where you've got the whole where they're, Billy goes back to the room, and then they essentially trying to cover up the fact that it's not Billy that's doing it.
Yeah.
And he goes to the police station and stuff, but then he does that look around, and then you're like, no, he's definitely the fucking killer. Look at the psychopath. But but you know what I mean? Like, there's so many moments where it's the intelligence of this movie where it's just like they're constantly trying to throw you a red herring. You've even got the moment where they're at the house and Dewey goes off with Courtney Cox. With Gail Weathers, and that's when there's that little moment where you're like, hang on, is it Dewey? Because he starts doing that shit with the torch, and and then this is where like Dewey starts becoming a little bit creepy, and then but then they nip that in the bud a little bit when they have their crash, and then they start making out, and then you're like, oh no, it's not Dewey, he's definitely too
Yes.
fucking dumb, he's too dumb to do this shit. And I tell you something, I was so distraught as a kid as well when Dewey walks out that house, and you're like, oh, hopefully he's all right. And then he starts stumbling, and you realize he's got the life in his back. And I was like, no, not Dewey. Like,
Not
he was
Dewey.
like my favorite. I was like, no. But yeah, you said it earlier on, and it's called like worth going through like some of the kills in this as well, because you've got obviously we've got the Tatum one that we've spoken about. Of course, you've got the Randy one, which is no, sorry, not the Randy one. The moment with Randy that I love. Obviously, Randy doesn't die until 2. But with Randy, I love the whole scene where you've got Ghostface going behind him. Oh, that's what I wanted to talk about. I've got it in my notes. Once again, like incredible writing where you've got, because they don't have to do this shit. And this is why it's so good. And this is why there's so much to talk about this movie. This I love. And I when I watched it the other day, I was like, how fucking clever is this? Is the bit in the news van where they're 30-second delayed.
Yeah.
And yeah, watching Randy and they see Ghostface go in and they're like, when's this happening? Like, is this now? And then the guy's like, oh, it's 30 seconds delayed. And it's so fucking clever. And then he opens the door and then Ghostface is there. And obviously, he gets the guy that's driving the news van sort of thing. But even when I was watching it the other day, I'm like, once again, this is like another fucking thing that they add on top of this incredibly intelligent and fun movie that you're like, wow, like what a cool idea that we're sitting there watching Randy and all this is happening late. Like you were like, it's like we're watching moments happen where it's 30 seconds behind, and this is the shit that's actually happening.
Yeah, and that scene's good as well when he creeps in, because he creeps in and it's mirroring the movie that Randy's watching. It's really,
Yeah.
really clever.
Yeah, exactly. You've got like it's going with the music with Halloween and stuff like that, which is great. And obviously that happens like a couple times during that sort of like ending scene. But this, as well as that, the last, I mean, it's what I was going to say that this movie is insane because it's like the last like 20 minutes of this movie are absolutely like incredible.
Carnage.
But then you're just like, yeah, it's just carnage. It's absolutely incredible. You've got, obviously you've got the reveal, but you've got how it's constantly going back and forth where, something happens to Gail, but then Gail ends up coming back, but then she fucks up because she leaves the safety on. And then, Billy knows about it. And then, you get the little moments where he's like full psychopath and creaks his neck. And you're like, oh, they're taking it to that length for psychopath, and obviously he's got the iconic lines where he quotes Psycho. That last 20 minutes, you're like, this is just constant and it's incredible and it's so enjoyable. But then you're like, hang on, like the whole fucking film is like this. Like there's very little time to rest in this movie, even when the characters are resting. Like every now and again, Sydney will have a fucking nap, and then she
Yeah.
get woken up by a phone call or Billy coming through a window or something like that. Like this film, like it earns every scene that it has. It earns every scene, and every scene that it has is amazing. There's the odd thing that's like a little bit weird, like for example, how Ghostface keeps on popping up in the weirdest of places. So, like, there's the bit where they're having the conversation of like Sydney and Tatum are having the conversation, and then just in the woods in the background, they just cut to Ghostface just in the background, like oh, like that. And that bit always makes me laugh. And then it goes one step further where he's in the fucking supermarket, and like, and every time I'm like, this is like that's hilarious. That's when I'm like, oh, okay, maybe hold back on the comedy on those moments because it's almost as if they're like, oh, we need to shove in a scene where they're in like having a chat. Put them in the supermarket and then put Ghostface in there and just see what happens.
Yeah, the thing is though, that then makes sense because these are two teen boys who are trying to scare them as well. So
Yes.
that makes sense because that's two teen boys would be like, oh right, they're going to the supermarket. Quick, stick that on. Go on, run down that aisle. Run down and go, and then dive back in and we'll take it off and put it in the bag. Like that,
Yeah.
as goofy as it is, when you think about it logically, it makes sense because that's exactly what, if it was you and me as teen boys trying to scare people, we would be like, hide behind that tree. Right, wait. Right, they're looking now. Jump out. Rah! Back in.
Yeah, you're right. It just makes it really funny scenes in the movie that I'm like, oh, every time I'm like, oh, that always does make me laugh. That it's just Ghostface, and then I imagine being like, oh, you were right there, and he's just like, oh yeah, I'm just looking like for like tomatoes or potatoes or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so there's that. You know, there's so many. It's just a film that's full of so many great moments, so many great, intelligent ideas and concepts. The way the movie looks and everything like that. That it's so exciting. One thing as well that I always found really interesting about this movie is the soundtrack in this movie, not the music that plays. Obviously, we've got classic like Nick Cave's Red Right Hand and stuff like that, which is essentially like Dewey's theme now,
Yeah.
throughout the series and so on. So you've got a lot of great movies. Obviously, you got Schools Out for summer with Alice Cooper as
Alice
well, and I
Cooper.
got to see Alice Cooper live, and when he played that, I was just like, I started being in fucking Scream, like it was amazing. And in fact, when I was a kid, obviously I played that as loud as I could on the summer holidays and stuff because I'm like, I'm in Scream, look at me, and so it was amazing. But what I think, and even when I watched it for my prep the other day, the soundtrack to this is really unlike a lot of scores that you get. Like this movie doesn't have like that classic horror score. It's like it feels very different. Like it's a very modern score. If you do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'm trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like sort of explain it, but
It hasn't got like and it hasn't got like that music
yeah,
behind it like you get in, like, for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street score is one of the greatest scores
yeah,
ever. And it's that like straight away what it is. But Scream doesn't have that. There is a soundtrack to it, but it's not. If I played you the actual soundtrack of Scream, it's not one that you go, oh shit, that's Scream. It's not like that. It's not like an Exorcist or a Jaws or a Nightmare on Elm Street that when you hear it, it's instantly recognizable. It's a lot more subtle and it's not used a lot either. It's very
yeah.
sporadic, mixed in with popular songs like right. Can't even speak.
Red Right
Right,
Hand, whatever
red
it's
right
fucking
hand.
called, yeah.
Yeah, like it's mixed in sporadically, and they only use it in certain points, and it's very much. I try. It's almost like a vocal score as opposed to a musical score, and I like it. But yeah, it's not instantly recognizable, and I think that actually works in the film's favor.
Yeah, it's like it's not something where you're like, this is the theme song of Scream.
Yeah,
Like you're exactly right. With Nightmare on Elm Street, we know that you've got the theme song of Nightmare on Elm Street, that dun 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 dun, that iconic. And of course, we've got 1, 2, Freddy's Coming for You, and all that sort of stuff. And we have that obviously a lot in horror, and you've mentioned some already. But with Scream, there isn't really like Red Right Hand reminds me of Scream. You know,
Yeah,
like that's the thing, you know, and Alice Cooper, you know, schools out and things like that. And there's some great songs. What's the other one? Like Drop Dead Gorgeous is another song on this soundtrack. But I remember those songs more than I remember the soundtrack. And when I was watching it the other day, I think one of the reasons why that is, and why it's not like one of those soundtracks that is massively memorable, although it works with the movie and it's very like experimental. I think a lot of it is because the sound design does a lot of the heavy lifting in
yeah,
this movie. So like there's a lot of like every time there's Ghostface is around, there's a lot more sound to it rather than, in the sound design of what's happening in the scene rather than having the music. So the sound design, obviously, in this movie is absolutely fantastic, and you feel the force of everything that's happening with all, when the horrible things are happening to people, you feel the horrible things that are happening to people. So it was always weird that this film sort of like didn't have like a recognizable soundtrack in regards to like a score, but the soundtrack itself became like the songs on it are what made it recognizable.
yeah,
But then I think to myself, and I wondered to myself, well, is this one of those movies that sort of helped that where we started getting movies where soundtracks were predominantly bands? There was a big time in the 90s and stuff and in the 2000s where a load of soundtracks were just the biggest bands there are out there, and they would
yeah,
do songs for soundtracks. And I'm wondering whether like this is one of those movies that sort of helped that, where it was like, this is obviously a movie for the modern age. And part of being of that modern age is having, these big band soundtracks rather than having predominantly like a score throughout the whole thing.
yeah.
Um,
And how much of that did Wes Craven learn from basically the creation of MTV Freddy, from Freddy being picked up into pop culture and all of the stuff that went with that? How much of that did Wes Craven sit there and go, the youth like Freddy, but the youth associate Freddy with this type of music and this type of stuff? Like, that's what they're listening to. How do I incorporate that into my incredibly meta look at horror? Because I need it there. I need to be able to draw this audience in. And by having some recognizable songs in here that people know and people love, and being able to release a soundtrack to go with it, which isn't just musical score, it's actual popular songs, that's another way for me to reach that audience and bring them in.
yeah. And also thinking about that, it's another testament to Craven and Williamson, because they didn't make this movie when they were teenagers,
No.
but yet they managed to create a movie that is for a younger audience, with the music, with the characters, with the performances, with the script, with everything that happens, with the look of the movie. It was very much aimed at a younger audience in regards to obviously the people that are old enough to see it. Obviously,
Yeah.
we saw it way before we were supposed to, but
Oh,
obviously when the movie came out in the UK, it was an 18, and it still is an 18. So obviously it was meant for that audience, but it once again, it goes to a testament of the creation of it, where you've got a movie that's created by people that weren't from that time. They weren't brought up in that time. They weren't that, of age of that time, but yet they still managed to make something that feels like it was made by people of that age.
yeah.
It's just the more and more you think about this movie, the more and more you think about the magic of what everything that went into creating it, and then we actually get that magic on screen. That is Scream, and it's just such an incredibly important movie to the genre. Like we've already mentioned, like this is another movie that Craven created that created an icon of horror.
Yeah.
And the fact that he managed to do that at least twice, um, really goes to a testament to how important Craven is to the horror genre. Like, really, truly is integral to the history and the success of what horror is in creating. At least as I said, then this is just the two movies of Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream, and managing to make something that obviously not only is a great success on its own, but then obviously it spawned franchises. Like the intelligence to be able to create something that can continue if they want to. He's just so important. Craven is so important that it's such a true loss when he died. It was something that I know that like it affected me in a big way because I was just like, fuck, like we don't have Craven anymore. And that really fucking sucked. And I know it did affected a lot of people as well. And it's always really interesting how, the deaths of people that we don't know. Like we don't know who Craven is. I would never meet him in my life. You know what I mean? I never did. But yet the death of these people that are creating stuff that is so integral to a genre, but also so integral to us on a personal level. Like we've both, said about how important this is personally and so on, and our love for this movie and Skeet Ulrich and everything like that. That it's really sad. Like you genuinely feel like you are part of their lives in a way, because of the work that they've created, and or how I would more say that they are part of your life, and the work that they've created has affected you so much that you feel something when these people pass away. And I was genuinely absolutely gutted when Craven passed away, because I was just like, oh shit, now we
Yeah,
don't have him.
yeah, and I think one of the questions that I ask myself a lot, and me and Mark have spoken about this off the air loads of times. If Wes Craven hadn't died, how many more times would he have at what point would he have gone, horror's gone stale again, and brought out something new that we're never going to get? Because it's not like he'd done it once, he's done it multiple times. At what point in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, would he have gone, oh, this is all getting a bit shit, isn't it? Let me go away and sit down with someone and come up with some ideas, and I'm going to release something that's going to change everything. And I often wonder what he would have done next. And I think that's the biggest loss, is because he had the ability to actually generate brand new original ideas, which is something that in modern cinema, as much as I like a lot of modern films, new original ideas are rare as rocking or shit. Like it's always a copy or a imitation of something that come before, and we're lacking someone to go, this is brand new. And I think Craven could have done that again.
Yeah, and especially, and we even spoke about this in our last episode, and I speak about it a lot with where we are in modern day horror, and how I miss the fun, and I miss a lot of what horror used to be, and I feel like we need to find our way back there. Craven is that person that would have helped us find a way back there, but
Yeah,
not just back there. In fact, Craven would have found a way to go forward. And that's what he was. He was an innovator. He was, his imagination, his intelligence for filmmaking, and his concepts and ideas and structure, they were just so unlike anybody else really that was out there creating stuff. We know that we've got the incredible directors of horror. We know that. But Craven was something special. We can sit here for hours and hours talking about how important his ideas and his concepts are to create multiple icons of the genre. It is sad, like you're saying, knowing that we don't know, we will never know what that next icon of horror that he would have created would have been, because there would have come a point, in all honesty, that I feel like, and I'm sure you do as well, we know that he would have.
yeah,
And that's what's really sad about it. But luckily, the good part about the fact that Craven got to make movies is, the good part is that the fact that he got to make them, and then we get to have that legacy that he left behind, of going, we can just watch Nightmare on Elm Street whenever we want and then enjoy it all the time. And we've spoken about Nightmare on Elm Street. Not all of them are good. Obviously, they're not all Craven, but obviously he only did the first one. But all the movies that are part of this Nightmare on Elm Street thing, of course we will watch them and still enjoy them, even if some of them are shit. And
yeah,
with Scream, we get to watch 4 movies that Craven made, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether people like them or not, but they all came from the start, the iconography of what Scream was and what Nightmare on Elm Street was. He was like, once in a lifetime generational talent for horror
yeah.
that we don't have. We have people that are making great horror, but I don't know if we have anybody that's going to be the people that are creating what comes next, like Craven did all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So
there are some great directors. There's some incredibly gifted, talented directors making some great horror movies. Like, horror is not dead. There
no,
are still new ideas that come out, but there's not been that big revolution. Like, everyone who's making horror now is taking ideas and concepts that already exist and adapting them to fit what they want to do. And they're making things that are slightly different, but it's very much an evolution. Whereas when Wes Craven tended to do things and he'd done a big movie, it was a case of, I'm going to ignore everything else that's come before and I'm going to start from scratch. What do I want it to be? What do I want it to do? What do the audience want? What do the audience need? What are people craving? And that's what I'm going to make. Where new horror directors are just going, oh, well, they done this in this movie and this was cool. Oh, and that was cool as well. And we're going to adapt that and release it. And they still make some great movies. A prime example is Deadstream. Deadstream follows every single found footage trope that there has ever been, but it does it in a new, unique way. It's not a new
yeah.
premise, it's not a new story, but it's a great movie. But that's not reinventing the wheel and giving us something that's groundbreaking, that's going to change the world of horror.
Yeah, exactly right. There are so many really, really good, enjoyable movies. But yeah, you're right. Are they the movies? And that's fine. Like, we're not saying that everyone has to reinvent the wheel, or,
No,
you know,
but we need someone to.
but we need someone to. Yeah, I would. I suppose the closest thing or the most exciting thing for me at the moment is Damien Leone with Art the Clown and Terrifier and stuff. For me, like, that's as close as we're getting to the modern day icon of what horror is and where it can go. But at some point, that will stop. Because, you know, the plans to stop that are already in motion anyway. So we'll see. But that's like the closest thing where I'm like, I feel like we're looking backwards at the iconography of what they were always trying to create with horror, but we're
Yeah,
looking forward because it is of the modern time of what we sort of want now. Which I never thought I'd say about Terrifier after how much I feel about the first movie. And then as soon as the second one came out, I was like, fuck, what has happened?
it's the
It is insane. And
same
then the
as
same
you.
with the third. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So,
hated the first one with a passion.
yeah, yeah, that's it. It's weird. I mean, the first one is just purely a showcase for the talent of David Howard Thornton, who's obviously brilliant as Art the Clown, and it's a showcase for insane, incredible practical effects. That's it.
Yeah,
That's all the first Terrifier is. But I tell you something, when the second one came out, I mean, I normally sit down and I have my gummy bears and I have a cup of tea. And my tea went cold, and I forgot about my gummy bears because of how much I enjoyed Terrified 2.
yeah,
But I'm pretty sure that in 96 or 97 or 98, when I watched this, I probably did the same thing with a carton of juice and and probably some gummy bears. Maybe I did have a cup of tea when I was that young. I was drinking tea at that young, actually. I'm very English. And I probably did the same thing watching Scream. I just remember sitting there and having my little brain absolutely blown, falling in love with Skeet Ulrich, falling in love with Rose McGowan. And of course, also that's the other little nod as well. She's wearing a little a crop top that's got the number 10 on it, which obviously is Johnny Depp's t-shirt. Reference to that
yeah.
in Nightmare on Elm Street. Once again, you start sitting there, you think of them, and they pop up, and then you're like, oh shit, there's another one. Um, Before we get into everything else, I always like to ask, just in case, is there anything that you don't like about this movie?
No. That's just a really
Exactly.
simple answer. No, there's nothing
There's
I
not.
don't like.
There's not. What's insane about this movie is I watched this the other day, and I had a pretty shit day, and we have them, we have pretty shit day mentally, and with work and life and everything like that. As soon as I put Scream on, I couldn't be more excited the fact that I'm watching Scream. And that is insane that I am now an old man and now, sitting here dressed like Willy Wanker doing a podcast. And yet I watched this when I was like 12 or 13, became obsessed with it, and I'm still obsessed with it.
Yeah,
That's like insane to me that this film still has that effect on me, that I can put this on. And what's insane as well is that obviously, everybody that's watching or listening to this, of course, we are right into the Halloween season. when we're recording this, it's not the Halloween season just yet. We're in
No,
September. So I've watched Scream and I will be watching it again during this October.
so
Every
will I.
single year I watch Scream, and I enjoy it every time. And every time that I do watch it, I'm mesmerized by every aspect of it. And there is not many movies that do that have been out for so long now, but yet still to this day, when you're watching it, you're like, I still love this movie so much that I can't wait to watch it again, even if it's the day after or the day
Yeah,
after that. Like, there are not many movies do this. I get asked this, and I'm sure you do as well. You know, when we do podcasts and YouTube and stuff like that, I get asked, the most common question I get is, "What's your favorite horror movie of all time?" Or what's your top 10 horror movies and stuff like that, and I never answer them because I can
no,
never answer them.
I
I've
can't.
seen too many movies in my lifetime. You know, when you study movies because it's your homework, because you want to make them, I've seen so many movies, it's impossible for me to say what my favorite horror movie is or what my top 10 is. But Scream, I will absolutely 100% hand on heart say, is in my top 10 horror movies ever made. And in fact, it could even be in my top 10 movies of all time, not just in horror, but in cinema in general, which is fucking insane. Like, that's how good this is.
Yeah, it's definitely in my top 10. I'm like you. Like when someone asks me for my favorite, my favorites are always interchangeable, and my top 10 is always interchangeable. So on a certain day of the week, Jaws will be my favorite movie of all time. Then I'll sit down and I'll watch Scream, and I'll be just in the right mood for Scream, and I'll sit there and I'll watch it and go, Joe, Scream's the best horror movie. And then I'll watch The Shining and I'll do the same. Go, actually, no, that's my favorite. And the problem is that there's so many good movies and so many great iconic movies to try and pick apart the likes of The Shining versus Scream versus Jaws versus Halloween versus the original Hellraiser. Like, you can't separate those films and you can't compare them because they're so different and they all give you something very, very different. But all of those belong in that top echelon of like top 10, top 15. If I'd ever done a top 10 of all horror movies, it'd have to be like a top 100. And even
Yeah,
then,
I
I'd
was just
struggle.
about to say that. Yeah, I was just about to say, I was thinking the exact same thing. When you said that, I was just like, I would struggle for a top 100 because
Yeah,
then I'd do that 100 and then I would go, oh shit, but then I forgot about this one. And then I forgot about this one. And
yeah.
then I'd redo it. And then I'd go mad. And then I'd end up an alcoholic. I'd end up in a mental asylum, still trying to write my top 100 horror movies. But yeah, you're exactly right. But I will say, and you mentioned some of the other movies that will probably be in my top 10 as well. But I would say, with the fact that this transcends time for the genre itself, as well as so many of us personally, and I love the fact that it transcends age as well. I love the fact, like, I cannot wait until my daughter is old enough to watch Scream. I cannot wait for the day because I know that she will love this movie. Like, she will unconditionally love this movie, and it may even be her favorite movie she's ever seen. But I just can't wait for it. But it does continue to reach new audiences. And it isn't one of those movies that the new audience doesn't look at this and then go, look how fucking old this is. Look how dated it is. Because of the talent that went into creating it. Like I said, this movie still looks like a movie that was made today.
Yeah.
Like, it's that good looking, this movie, that it still looks like a movie of modern day. So it doesn't have that to go against it. The fact that it, like, the things that make it dated aren't things that make it stand out, uh, is the reason. And obviously we have these great characters and so on, and the fact that of the the things that happen in it that still feel unpredictable to this day. It still continues to reach new audiences, where the new audience are like, fuck, like, I watched this movie that was made in the 90s and it's like insanely good. And I love that. I love that for Craven. I love that for Williamson. I love that for the cast. The fact that the cast are still making so much fucking money at conventions is the best fucking thing. The fact that they all still are friends, they still will go to conventions together, they make a shitload of money. I love that because I want everybody involved in this movie to be able to create as much of a life that they want, because of this movie, because of what they gave us.
Yeah.
Because what they gave us is just endless, transcending time, incredible enjoyment. And that's what I get from every time I watch this movie. So you're right. That's the thing. When I always ask that question, is there anything that you don't like about this movie? No, there's literally not. I could have more of this movie, and I would. Well, we did get more of this movie. It wasn't as good, but
Yeah.
I can still keep. I can still keep watching them. Let's get into some production info and facts. So the high school scenes were to be shot at Santa Rosa High School in California. However, very close to the shooting date, the school board read the script and denied the film to be shot there due to the violent nature, as they had been under the impression the film was a comedy, and production was moved to Healdsburg, California. As payback, though, director Wes Craven put in the end credits under the special thanks section, "No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board."
Amazing.
Classic Craven. I love the fact that he's just like, fuck you, like it's just I just love Craven. I truly do. And I love like watching like interviews with him as well, because he seems like such a genuinely nice fucking guy, but also you have this air of intelligence that he has to him as well, that when you watch them you're like, now I know why he's creating these movies, because he is this person. Matthew Lillard was cast as Stu Masher by chance after accompanying his then girlfriend to an unrelated audition taking place elsewhere in the same building. Casting director Lisa Beach saw Lillard in the hallway and asked him to audition for the part, which is mental. And also,
That's crazy.
I also think that he did or may have also auditioned first for Billy's role. And then obviously he didn't get it. But when you're going up against Hunk Man, Skeet Ulrich, with those demon eyes that he's got,
Yeah.
and obviously the fact that it's a Wes Craven movie and he's referencing his own movies, and this guy looks just like Johnny Depp. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're going to cast him. In the same year of 1996, Skeet Ulrich and Neve Campbell both appeared in The Craft. Neve was going to say no to being in Scream, but signed on after learning of Skeet Ulrich's involvement. Obviously, they became friends during The Craft. And once again, it means the chemistry works even more so. So
Yeah.
it's an advantage to the movie. All the killer's phone calls were really done by Roger Jackson on set with a cell phone. At one point, the crew were contacted by the police demanding to know who they were, because they thought there was a real killer making the phone calls.
That's amazing.
And also, what I do want to add to that as well is that I love the fact that even though obviously it's Roger Jackson doing the voice, the ghost face voice, and obviously he continued to do so, I like the fact that you can still think that it's Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard. Like, it doesn't sound so out there that it doesn't still sound like them.
No, it still works. You can believe it. And then obviously when they give you the voice changer, you're like, yeah, it all makes sense.
Yeah. Get up, I'm going to die. It's just great. It really, truly is. And the last one I've got is the scene where the killer is sneaking up behind Randy, obviously Jamie Kennedy, who went on to be in obviously Son of Mask and some other things, is the only one. And some of the Tremors is the only one where the person in the costume is actually one of the actors rather than the stuntman. Skeet Ulrich specifically asked if he could wear the costume for one scene. So there we go. Which is the scene where he's sneaking up behind him, which, as we've already said, is just such a great scene, and it just adds to the intelligence of the movie. I truly love it. I mean, there's not really much point in doing this, but we can do it really quickly. What's your overall thoughts on Scream?
Where do I start? Scream is arguably Wes Craven's greatest creation. It's not necessarily my favorite thing he's done, but for a piece of cinema and for the impact it had, not just on horror, but on the wider cinematic audience, there's nothing like it. There is not another movie in horror like Scream. It transcended the genre so much that your nan's mate knows who Ghostface is. They know what Scream is. He created a ensemble cast of nobodies that went on to be stars. and rightfully so. And yeah, managed to create a second icon after creating Freddy Krueger. If you'd have said to me, do you reckon he could create a character just as cool as that and get as big as that? I'd have laughed and gone, not a chance. Like, everyone's got one in them. No one can do two. But he did. And the Ghostface mask is iconic. I remember the year that this came out on VHS in the UK, they also released the bleeding Ghostface
Yeah,
mask, where you,
I had it. Yeah,
where you had the heart. I've got one. I've got one that I've managed to get hold
nice.
of. You got the heart that you pump. That mask was everywhere. That Halloween, everybody had that. It was genuinely like a movement. You know, when you see the memes of like all the people in the bar dressed in the same costume, that was genuinely what Ghostface done. It was absolutely everywhere. You couldn't escape it. The film itself is perfectly shot. It's perfectly soundtracked, perfectly cast. It is as good as a horror movie as you will ever get. And yeah, it's a perfect movie, which is such a rare thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I need to say anything. One, I mean, you just said it all. We've said it throughout all of this. I don't know. I just all I can say really is I just think anybody that watches this, you can tell that like we don't. When I do Let's Talk Horror, none of this is fucking put on. I don't. You know, I'm not here for fucking likes and shit like that. I'm here to be as passionate as I can about a movie. And Scott, we all know, does the same exact thing. We're here to talk as passionately about something we like or we don't like. We're here to talk about why we like it, why we don't like it. That's what we're here to do. That's what we want to do. You know, we're not here to just put things on and then say, and then after we finish this, go, oh yeah, Scream's pretty shit actually. You know, like that's not what we're doing. It's not why we're talking about it. And then right at the start of this episode, I said that this is going to be one of the biggest episodes we've ever done in regards to not just the movie itself, but it's one of the biggest movie to me on a personal level. And this is, and I'm not just talking about in the confines of the horror genre, I'm talking about movies in general. This is one of the most personal movies ever. If you want to if you have a movie that you love so much that you're outside of it in real life, you want to try and emulate and you want to try and make your own home movies pretending to be Skeet Ulrich, buying these like fake knives and stuff like that, and you know, doing your home movies, that shows the importance of this movie to you on a personal level, but it also goes to show the importance this movie had on pop culture and the culture of the time. But also, I love the fact that it still continues to transcend that time and it continues to reach new audiences. People still continue to dress up as Ghostface. My daughter has never seen Scream, but she has a Ghostface costume that she wears. And last year, she stood there still, and when people were coming into doing Halloween, and doing trick or treating, she would stand still and then fucking jump out at them when they started thing and scare the shit out of people wearing a ghost face thing. And literally, some woman fell flat on her ass, and I felt really bad. And then my daughter just kept doing it. It's just this movie is so important, so iconic, and as good as the cast is, and how important the cast is to this thing, how good every aspect of this movie is, and how the fact that I've already said, and Scott has said as well, the fact that this movie looks so good that to this day, it still doesn't look like a movie that's dated. Like, it's a bit like Seven, for example. Seven, to me, is a movie that is like one of, if not the most beautiful movie that's ever been made. That when you watch Seven today, even though it's from the 90s, mid-90s, it's still, it doesn't matter because it
Yeah.
transcends the time in regards to, on an aesthetic and a cinematic level, it transcends time and it is timeless. But for me, a lot of this rests on Craven and Williamson. The fact that Williamson created the script that he did for a bunch of teens to do what they're doing and to create this movie that feels of the time and of this time still is just insane to me. But the fact that we had Craven, like we keep saying, the fact that this is already a guy that had already created iconography on the highest level throughout his career for horror, and then he does it again in 1996 with Scream, with a great idea, a great concept. When you think Freddy Krueger is the greatest thing out there, and the most terrifying idea and concept for the villains that are out there. I've said this before, but I think as much as Freddy Krueger is a fucking bitch and can't fight for shit and gets beaten up by fucking everyone in the movies, the concept of Freddy Krueger is the scariest concept out of all of the villains. I mean, you're in your sleep and he can do fucking anything to you. But Ghostface can happen. Ghostface can be a real thing, and unfortunately, obviously, it has happened not necessarily people dressing up in Ghostface, but it does happen in everyday life. And he takes that everyday life thing, and rather than creating this supernatural force, this supernatural essence of what a lot of movies are in horror, he creates something that's more grounded and makes it so successful that we still watch it now today and then go, oh, people like me now get to watch it today and then go, this has made me feel a million times better, that all my worries and problems have gone away because I've watched Scream.
Yeah, my day's better now.
Exactly. So there we go. Of course, I want to know what you think about Scream. So please, if you're watching this on YouTube, pop in the comments. Let me know whether you like Scream, whether you think we're talking shit. You're allowed to do that, of course, or on all the socials you can do that as well. But this is a big one, and do you know what? I'm gutted that one of the reasons I don't talk about the bigger movies sometimes is purely because I'm sad when it's done. Because now I know that I no longer will be talking about Scream unless I go on somebody else's show or I do a deep dive into all of the Screams and so on, maybe down the line. I don't know, but it's always one of those sad moments when another one of the most important movies in the history of horror is done. I always get ticked off the list, and then I'm like, oh, now where do I go from here? And I'm really, really sad, and I haven't got that many of the big ones that I want to tick off that list as well. And Scream obviously is one of those. So I'm super sad that it's done, but I'm super excited that I get to have this conversation, obviously the conversation with you, and I get to put it out there for everyone. Really quickly, of course, it isn't a Let's Talk Horror podcast without doing the section Your First Time. I won't ask you for a recommendation, Scott, don't worry, because you did it on the last one. And obviously I nearly cried at that recommendation. Yeah. So Your First Time segment, obviously this is where you, the horror community, or anyone out there that listens or watches Let's Talk Horror, you can send me over your first time horror movie memory that you remember. You can pop it over to me on any of the socials or comment it on YouTube. This one is from the Scary Movie Project, who sent it to me on Instagram. It's just a quick one that they put. One horror movie is one horror memory, they remember, is renting The Shining when they were a kid from the video store on a Friday and watching it 3 or 4 times that weekend. I would do that sometimes twice a month. We've already mentioned The Shining. You've mentioned Shining. I mean, that's another one that's up there as one of the greatest movies of all time, as well as horror. Yeah. And I can see why you would want to. It is one of those movies, very much like Scream, that you can watch over and over again, which is mad about The Shining, because it's not exactly a quick-paced movie. It's a pretty slow burn, slow-paced movie, but yet you want to fucking keep going back to it every time. So yeah, I can see why they kept going back to it on the weekend 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it's a hard watch, The Shining. As you get older, it becomes a harder watch. It's a lot more emotionally draining as an adult. Apart from when I was younger, I could watch it again and again and again. Now I need to psych myself up to watch it because it's traumatic. The Shining,
and also that what you just said there, once again, is another thing that's like insane about Scream, because I feel like I go like when I watch it now, I feel like the same kid I was when I watched Scream for the first time.
Yeah,
and it is one of those things that you can just—it's one of those movies that you can just pop on and then just go, wow, like what a fucking movie! Like it's insane how good it is. But I'm not going to start again. We're fucking start again, and I can't. We're not doing it again. I don't want to put everybody through it. Well, there we go. Scott, I'm not going to, obviously, I would love you to promote You Run and everything you do again, because there may be some people who didn't watch the last episode we did. If you didn't, you've mugged yourself right over. Go and watch that one. If you're watching this, go and watch that one as well, or listen to it. It'd be available bloody everywhere. So go and do it. But obviously, Scott, you know what you're doing. Please promote everything you do with You Run podcast.
Yeah, well, I feel I've kind of cheated out because my mask's not been. I'll do it with my mask on. YouRunPodcast.com It's really that simple. Everywhere on yourunpodcast.com, you've got links to all of our socials. You've got links to all of our shows, and you've got links to all of the members of the You Run Podcast Network as well. So yeah, go and check out yourunpodcast.com. There we go.
Simple as that. Just
Yeah.
yourunpodcast.com. Go and enjoy everything that Scott and obviously his brilliant co-host Mark does with You Run Podcast. Go and support all the podcasts that are on the You Run network. Why can't I fucking say words now? I can't say anything. I'm so excited. I got so excited about talking about Scream and Wes Craven that now I can't say words. Because do you know what's mental? Is I want to watch Scream now.
Yeah.
That's what's insane. Like the whole time, like now, I'm sitting here and I'm like, I feel like I'm going to go and watch Scream, and I might just go and do that. I think I might go and watch Scream again. So I hope that everybody else does too. So obviously, with this being our Halloween episodes, our spooky season, I honestly truly hope that everybody's having the best time. We will, when this comes out, we'll be right smack bang pretty much in the middle of October. I hope, as I say, everybody is enjoying the movies they're watching. Hopefully they're not putting on shit movies and they're just enjoying it. I hope you're getting all your decorations up if you do decorate. I mean, to be fair, they're probably all up already. I think mine probably will be up by now. But this season is, as I said on the other episode, and I always say, Halloween is for horror. And it is always the best time to watch horror. And it's also the best time to get involved with horror. So you obviously, please, can you try and do that with Let's Talk Horror? And that's all I ask. And the same with Scott, with You Run Podcast. Just enjoy everything that we do. And if you do enjoy it, please rate and review. Please subscribe. If you're watching this, it's free. Please go and subscribe on our YouTube channels. Rate and review and enjoy it on any podcast platform. As I said, like even things like if you listen to it on Good Pods, you can get us into the charts on there, which would be bloody nice. There's always the opportunity for us to continue to keep like evolving and reaching new audiences. And of course, that's what we'd like to do. But we are also so grateful and so blessed with the audience that we do have. So as much as I do talk about, I'd like to have more. I love everybody that I have so far, and obviously you all mean the absolute well to me that you're on this journey with me with Let's Talk Horror, a journey that I've been on pretty much my whole life, mostly on my own, and now I get to share that journey with people like Scott and people all over the world. I feel a little bit like fucking Willy Wonka at the moment. Yeah. I sounded a bit like him. I'm sharing my horror universe with people just like he does with chocolate. But I'm not killing kids, thank God. But I truly love this journey, and I truly love Halloween, and I hope everybody's having the best time possible. And I cannot wait to get out of this sweat pit of a suit that I am on at the moment, because I'm just about to fucking pass out. So I'm just going to go and jump in a freezer and cool down a little bit. But everybody, look, go and enjoy Scream, because I think I'm probably just about to fucking go and enjoy it as well. Once again, Scott, thank you for joining me once again for another Halloween. Should we do this next year as well?
Yeah, I can't say it to you enough. I am always ready to come on your show, and the fact you keep me saved for Halloween each year is honestly a privilege. So yeah, whenever you need or want me, just send me a message and I'll be here.
I need to get some sort of bat signal or something like that. Like, just put it up and then you'll look up into the sky and go, oh, it's time. I'll do it like a bat signal. It's like a pumpkin. And then that way, every year I'll put up a pumpkin and you'll like look up and then it'll be like, dun, 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 and you'll know it's time to come on Let's Talk Horror and talk about horror. Thank you so much, Scott. I love having you on the show. You know I do. And I just love the fact that we just get to have these really great, passionate conversations about horror. Everybody knows we love it. Otherwise, what's the fucking point in doing it? Absolutely. There we go. Well, listen, guys, look, until next time, once again, have an incredible, incredible spooky season of the Screams, Halloween. Have a fucking great one. I'll catch you on the flip side. I will catch you when we're out of Halloween. But guess what? We're still talking about horror. Until next time, stay creepy, fuckers.
Halloween is finally here, the spooky season that brings the fear. But don't get scared of the ghouls at night. with the blackest eyes delivering up a fright, or the shadows that climb the walls to the creepy sounds that fill the halls, or the sound of voices from under the bed. But never take a peek or you'll lose your head. There is no such things as monsters in the dark, but there are such things as a hellhound's bark. Those red eyes that stare, or clawed fingers that scrape, or the voices in your head you just can't escape. So snuggle up and put on a film, one that gives you shivers and delivers the thrills. Blood, guts and screaming's what's bound to be when you're watching your pics for Halloween. The season of fun and trick or treats, just watch out for the witch creeping under your sheets. But always be careful going out on the night, there may be vampires looking out for a bite. So let's have a laugh, but always beware, you're never too old for one last scare.